While intermittent fasting may be considered a trending fad by some, in a healthy context, it can become an intuitive technique. Let's start with the driving science behind fasting, the metabolism of food. What we eat is broken down by enzymes and eventually ends up as molecules in our bloodstream. Carbohydrates are broken down after digestion and enter the bloodstream as glucose, which is commonly referred to as blood sugar, then used by our cells for energy. This glucose can only enter our cells with the help of insulin, a hormone made in the pancreas. Insulin brings that blood sugar into the fat cells and keeps it there for use. If our cells don't use all of the glucose stored for energy, it will be stored as fat. With non-diabetic individuals, between meals, insulin levels decrease and fat cells then release their stored sugar to be used as energy. The general idea then of fasting is to allow the insulin levels to go down far enough and for long enough that we burn off the energy stored in our fat cells. Let's address the types of intermittent fasting approaches commonly used. The 5-2 method, also known as alternate day fasting, involves eating normally 5 days a week and then a very low-calorie diet for 2 different 24-hour periods. That low-calorie level to be about 500 to 700 calories. There's no recommendation on which 2 days per week to fast, as long as there is a non-fasting day in between. Some studies found this approach of markedly reduced calorie intake on 1 day or more each week resulted in elevated levels of those ketone bodies on the very low-calorie days. Another approach, alternate day fasting, requires days of 0 calorie intake, followed by days with unrestricted calorie intake, similar to also the 24-hour approach. Complete fasting involves 1 to 3 days per week of 24-hour fasts, occurring whenever desired. Fasting and feeding days are not limited to 24 hours apart. The time-restricting approach may be among the easiest to adopt. The goal is to fast for 12 to 16 hours and have a 12 to 8-hour window in between for eating. For example, the 16-8 method would involve eating every day for 8 hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then after 5 p.m. until 9 p.m., a 16-hour fasting window, at which time you sleep or drink only non-calorie beverages like water, unflavored tea, or unflavored coffee. A few benefits of intermittent fasting may include more freedom in choices on days without restrictions. Also, for weight management purposes, it may be easier to maintain intermittent fasting than focusing simply on a low-calorie diet. It may only be a minor adjustment for many people as well, especially if individuals already eat a late breakfast and eat an early dinner. An increase in metabolism may occur. Research suggests intermittent fasting may boost metabolism. By changing the timing of meals, eating earlier in the day, and extending the overnight fast, an improved metabolism in some people, even if they didn't experience weight loss, which they could still benefit from over time. Lower risk of diabetes was found in overweight and obese individuals that tried intermittent fasting. It slightly lowered their insulin resistance, which is linked to increased risk for diabetes type 2. Decreased inflammation markers have been noted with fasting. Inflammation in our body is connected to several conditions and diseases. It has been extrapolated that intermittent fasting may reduce signs of aging and extend longevity because lower inflammation over time can decrease effects on cell damage. Possible side effects of intermittent fasting can include persistent hunger, irritability, low energy level, and poor work performance. Also, when restricting food, there is a higher dopamine release in the brain, which can increase cravings. So when individuals do eat, it may increase their risk of binge eating. Intermittent fasting may decrease speed in athletes if not enough energy reserves are available to prolong and fuel exercise. Research consistently showed going without calories for long periods of time isn't advised for many individuals. Fasting should be avoided by people who are underweight or have a history of eating disorders. Also, anyone with a chronic disease, such as diabetes or high blood pressure, should not attempt fasting without approval from a medical provider. Pregnant women, breastfeeding, and even women of childbearing age should avoid fasting because it may be difficult to meet consistent elevated energy needs with those areas. The nutrient requirements to maintain pregnancy and breastfeeding are high. Women of childbearing age or interested in becoming pregnant should consume a diet that supports early gestation, and that can be difficult to compensate or make up for on the non-fasting days. In this image, note a few things. The spacing and timing of each fasting plan, every 2 to 3 hours. Also, the quantity of food at each meal or snack, and the quality of the choices shown. The examples are all nutrient-dense and high-quality calories. So the general recommendations for intermittent fasting are, after waking up and until your first meal, drink plenty of water. At your first meal, meet nutrient needs by eating whole foods. At the second meal, continue to eat a variety of nutritious foods. Then at the third, last meal, focus on eating foods to help keep you full, fueled, and satisfied. Timing may be everything. Consider the 12-hour fast shown here. It may not differ from most schedules, aside from eliminating late-night snacking. While the 18-hour fast may be difficult for an adult or parent with work, school, and evening activities to adhere to due to eating every 2 hours in the limited period. Also, snacking is involved in this image, not just meals, which is important to maintain that consistent intake and get a variety of nutrient needs. Intermittent fasting is a fascinating concept and worth further review. Check out the emerging research in these studies listed. As to whether intermittent fasting is a trend or can be an intuitive technique, consider current recommendations based on the guidelines for healthy Americans. Be active throughout your day to utilize available energy stores, get enough sleep, engage in lifestyle behaviors that positively influence your metabolism and health. Those recommendations mirror the positive benefits of intermittent fasting, but also what should be done by all people. If you want to try intermittent fasting, start with a moderate approach of time-restricted eating. Cut out nighttime eating and snacking, then start to limit your eating window each day. Try a schedule gradually, eating from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., then if preferred, gradually decrease the eating window. Move your timeline to earlier in the day, between 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., or from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., depending on your individual needs. One important takeaway for everyone: avoid eating late in the evening or before bed when mindless eating and poor nutrition choices most often occur.